On March 26, 2005, Doctor Who came back to British television screens after over 15 years away with the pilot episode Rose. And with it being the 60th anniversary of the franchise this year, it seems to be a good time to celebrate how far we've come by looking back at where New Who started. From the awkward and forgettable to the signs of the brilliance that was to come, I'm Cypher Who Culture, and here's every episode of Doctor Who Series 1 ranked from worst to best. Number 10. Boomtown. Something has to be at the bottom of the list, and for all of its small moments of brightness, Boomtown remains the dullest tale in Christopher Eccleston's run. The episode's greatest strength is as an example of Season 1's brilliant connective tissue. We have a returning villain, a story that centres on the time rift first seen in the Unquiet Dead, the first mention of the heart of the TARDIS, and considering it brings Captain Jack to Cardiff, Boomtown really feels like the soft launchpad for Torchwood. However, more than that, it feels like a bottle episode. Slitheen in a skin suit, Margaret spends most of the story in human form, flapping her gums about the moral quandaries of the Doctor, taking her to her home world for certain execution. Unfortunately, there are much better episodes that look at the ramifications of the Doctor's actions and choices. Worse yet, the Doctor lucks into a solution for the issue when Margaret looks into the heart of the TARDIS and winds up de-aging back into an egg, apparently giving her a second chance on life to not be a terrorist. Number 9. The Long Game. Simon Pegg starring in Doctor Who seems like a nerdy dream come true, which makes it all the sadder that his sole episode is pretty drab. Pegg is as magnetic as always in The Long Game, but his performance is sadly lost in a poor story with too many other moving parts. The episode takes the Doctor, Rose and temporary companion Adam to a space station in the distant future. Here it's revealed that human progress has stalled due to an intervention in information sharing by a gigantic angry blob called the Jagrafess, which in 2023 is worryingly relatable. The B story shows Adam immediately disregarding what's all common sense and movies have told us about time travel by trying to deliver his past self some valuable information about the future. This takes far too much time away from an undercooked showdown between the Doctor and Pegg's character, the Editor. Like Boomtown, The Long Game serves a purpose in setting up Satellite 5 as a key location for the finale, but beyond that, it's mostly a forgettable affair. Number 8. Aliens of London and World War III. When bringing Doctor Who back from the dead, it would have been tempting to fill the first series with as much recognisable iconography as possible, so applause must go to Russell T Davies and his team for having plenty of new stories, characters and aliens. Perhaps the most memorable new species from the first series of New Who is the Slitheen family of the Raxacoricophalabatorian race, for better or worse. The problem with Aliens of London and World War III is the smorgasbord of ideas that don't gel together. On the one hand, we have an event so seismic that it becomes worldwide news, the military and units are both pulled in, and it culminates in the destruction of 10 Downing Street. However, at the centre of it all are the Slitheen, clunky, awkward, flatulent aliens that attempt to be threatening and funny, and achieve neither. The two-parter feels like a juggling act that barely catches any of the balls it throws into the air. It's not all bad, Billy is on top form as Rose, we get to meet the warm motherly tones of Harriet Jones MP, and any story with Jackie Tyler in it gets bonus points. Number 7. Rose. 18 years on, it's very strange to look back at Rose and know that this is where it all started. Especially since, if we're being honest, this feels like a low-budget student film, especially compared to the huge productions with impressive CGI that the show becomes in a few short years. That's not necessarily a bad thing, however, and there is an undeniable charm to this pilot, with some latent potential and real cleverness. The Autons are a strange choice for a first villain, but they do exist merely to set up the character work of Eccleston, Piper and company, including an amazing underloved performance from Mark Benton as Dr. Conspiracy Theorist Clive. By framing the episode through Rose's point of view, we are swept along on this crazy adventure alongside the strange man in a box with the northern accent. We are expertly introduced to Rose's world with Mickey and Jackie, as well as all the running and techno-babble of the Time Lord. But it's Rose who's the true hero of this serial, which is important in setting up why the Doctor's hardened shell cracks, and why he lets her into his life. This episode is far from the best of the bunch, but nearly 2 decades later, it's brimming with the excitement of what's to come. Number 6. The End of the World. After Rose, the end of the world really feels like Doctor Who taking shape. We're off into the future, into space, and surrounded by quirky aliens that wouldn't be out of place in a Douglas Adams book, like evolved tree people and Cassandra, who is essentially an upright trampoline made of human skin cells. The Doctor has brought Rose to a small gathering in the stars to witness the heat death of planet Earth until something inevitably goes wrong. In a vacuum, as part of Eccleston's run, this is a dose of great writing and performance. We see early looks into 9 being a tad and careless after his time in the war and away from companions, dragging Rose to the end of the earth without thinking about the effect it could have on her. In this episode, Rose becomes a valuable part of the Doctor's conscience, and the two reflect and play off of each other brilliantly. As a piece on the greater tapestry of Who, this feels a lot more like the direction the series would head in. The end of the world is no less enthusiastic than the pilot episode, but it certainly has a clearer sense of identity. Gone are the awkward parts, shaved off for wacky but concise sci-fi. Number 5. The Unquiet Dead. One of the things that people remembered most about Doctor Who when it wasn't on the air was a particular feeling. It was exceedingly common for tabloids and the British public to nostalgically look back on how the Daleks could make viewers hide behind the sofa. Series 1 has no shortage of jump scares and creepy moments, but The Unquiet Dead represents a great example of something that the show doesn't do as often as it should: straight up horror. Arriving in 1869 Cardiff, the Doctor and Rose find themselves trapped in what appears to be a ghost story. They then deduce that the ghosts haunting a funeral home are in fact aliens made of gas trapped in a temporal rift. The episode is short on action, but is made up for by its consistently brilliant mood and by being a unique period piece for the series. The Unquiet Dead's true stars are guest actors Simon Callow in a brilliant turn as Charles Dickens and Eve Miles as Gwyneth, so good that she famously came back later as Torchwood lead Gwen. As a demonstration of the show's range, this episode slots nicely into the wheelhouse that Series 1 was building. Number 4. Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. Series 1's strength is how everything connects together. As such, the two-part finale had to be high up in this list as it pretty much hits every important beat. That being said, Bad Wolf in itself is a strange one, as it's mostly a comedy that places our heroes in some now very dated television references. The Doctor stars in Big Brother, and Rose takes on the android in The Weakest Link. There are some funny moments that unfortunately detract from the short-lived controller character who has brought them to Satellite 5 to fight her masters. It's a Doctor Who finale, so could these masters have been anything other than the Daleks? Here, Bad Wolf ends on a stunning high that the Parting of the Ways knocks out of the park. The Doctor works alone to face down his old enemy, and we flip back to 2000's London as Rose takes her destiny into her own hands and returns to the future, becoming the Bad Wolf and wrapping up the story of that mysterious phrase that had been sprinkled throughout the series. As Eccleston's final appearance, it creates a really neat loop from Rose to the finale, but you can't help but feel that he had so much more to give. Number 3. Father's Day. The first series of New Who is littered with cautionary warnings about time and space travel, about what can't and what shouldn't be done, unless you want to cause a paradox and unravel the timey-wimey ball of yarn that is history. No less does this take centre stage than with the unbelievably good Father's Day. Playing off Rose's absent father, it's only a matter of time before the Doctor's companion asks if she can meet him. Despite the Doctor's warnings, Rose can't help but get directly involved. She saves her father's life, and this introduces the Reapers, monsters that, in the Doctor's words, sterilise the wound when the timeline is damaged. It's such a cool concept, and it's a shame that only the expanded media has seen the Reapers show up again. Eccleston rightfully shifts into the background but plays an important role in knowing more than he lets on, and the subtlety of his performance is highly underrated. That being said, the true heartbeat of Father's Day is Billie Piper's Rose and her chemistry alongside her father, played by Sean Dingwall, which is poignant and heart-wrenching. It's near impossible not to well up when Pete Tyler gets to say goodbye to his daughter, all grown up, and sacrifice himself to restore natural order. Wonderful. Number 2. The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. This two-parter exceeds Series 1's finale and is markedly better than a lot of double bill stories to come because it is an exception to the rule that one part will always pale in comparison to the other. In the case of Stephen Moffat's first writing credit for the show, both The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances are exceedingly good. On that note, this story really is an insight into Moffat's career with Doctor Who, all the highs of brilliant concepts and a tiny peek at his lows. Remember the Doctor randomly interjecting a banana into a tense moment? That was weird. A story that neatly wraps itself around World War II, time agent Jack Harkness, a mysterious cylinder, and a terrifying child in a gas mask. It manages to be both a thrilling, scary adventure and a touching, character-driven story. The trio of the Doctor, Rose, and Jack are unbelievably good fun, and the final twists and resolutions are so rewarding, made even more so as Eccleston's Doctor remarks, "Everybody lives," with pure glee. More than that though, there's a reason why "Are You My Mummy" became such an iconic quote. Creepy, but gratifying and heartfelt all at once, this beloved story is perfect television. And number 1, Dalek. If The Doctor Dances represents the height of television writing in the mid-2000s, then Dalek is so good that it could have been a movie. Adapting and heavily improving an earlier story, the Doctor and Rose find themselves underground in the future of 2012, where a collector of alien artifacts introduces them to his prized possession, a Dalek. This episode sees Nine quite literally foaming at the mouth, once again confronting the enemy he sacrificed so much to destroy. This is everything Doctor Who needs to be, firing on all cylinders. Rose unknowingly awakens the creature out of compassion, while Christopher Eccleston plays a Doctor exuding fear, rage, and the trauma of the Time War. Even better, the lone Dalek asks our leading players and the audience to confront an age-old question of morality and mortality. How does a killer of killers excuse themselves? A single Dalek causes so much chaos through a series of brilliantly directed scenes and becomes more of a character than just a simple villain. Best of all, it defines who the Ninth Doctor is in this part of his life. Considering that Eccleston only got one series, there is no better episode to demonstrate who he was as the Doctor. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and of course let us know which your favourite and least favourite episodes of Series 1 are. Make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and head over to whatculture.com for more content every day. I've been Cy for Who Culture, and have a good week.